Hey guys, before we start this episode, I wanted to talk to you about Type 1 lifting. So Type 1 lifting is a clothing line that proceeds of the shirts and tanks and everything else goes to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So this all came about with me and seeing a 5-year-old girl in the emergency department that had new onset of diabetes. So just take a look at the website. It's www.type1lifting.com. So just check it out. If you don't buy anything, that's perfectly fine. I would just like for you just to take a look and just see what we have. So like I said before, www.type1lifting.com. And guys, I hope you enjoy the show. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I have an awesome guest. I'm actually really excited to talk to this young lady. Her name is Linda Franklin. How's everything going?
Great.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. I actually connected with you through a friend through Instagram, pretty much. She actually sent me over to your page, and I was in absolute awe of you being a power lifter, a type 1 diabetic, and your age as well. So which is amazing. So usually my first question to the diabetics in the group. So when did you get diagnosed as a diabetic?
Well, I know I heard you say that you were in your 30s. I was in my mid-20s. I was 26.
Okay.
And that was in 1982.
Okay.
So, we're going back to the dinosaur age here.
Yeah.
But the thing with that year was special because that was the year that human insulin came on the market.
Oh, very cool.
So I never had to do beef or pork, although I had to do the cloudy and clear mixing and all that stuff and, multiple injections a day. But that was interesting.
Yeah.
To be diagnosed that year. My doctor actually told me, hey, you're lucky. This is the year they're bringing it onto the market.
Yeah.
So,
which is pretty cool. So how did you check your sugars back then? Because obviously I got diagnosed pretty much 5 years ago. So I don't know back in the 80s how they did it.
Yeah, well, it was there were blood sugar meters, but they weren't available widely. So I actually peed on sticks, diet sticks.
Okay.
So to keep them blue, you don't want them to turn, you want it to be turquoise blue. So every time I ate, I would test myself by a urine sample. And it was pretty bad for most of the time.
Yeah.
And then I think I got my first meter a couple years later.
Okay.
And, it took forever to get a result.
Mm-hmm.
You're sitting there. And yeah, so I started off with peeing on diet sticks.
Wow, that's crazy. It's
things have changed a lot,
Yeah.
And when I got my meter, we got the blood sugar pricker, or whatever you want to call it, the Lancet device. It was known as the guillotine, which, you could see the Lancet going down into your finger, like you're ready to be.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
I mean, so how did you, when you got diagnosed in your 20s, how did you handle that throughout the years and having diabetes for that long now?
Well, first off, I was in bodybuilding. I was doing bodybuilding. I just got into it, and there were a few people in the gym saying, "Hey, you really need to go further with this, but you need to put on weight," And I was just eating, and we'd stop at Wendy's, and I'd order 2 hamburgers, milkshakes, fries, the whole works. Go home, and then be up all night peeing and drinking tons of water, and pretty soon, it didn't take long. For females, a symptom of type 1 diabetes is severe yeast infections, which I was having, and I went to go get checked and peed into a cup at the doctor's office, and he said, you need to go get some blood work done. So I went to the lab. I was there back then it was like a 6-hour test. So you sat there all day long drinking syrup, then they check you again. It wasn't just like a finger stick and you're diabetic.
Yeah.
This was an all-day event. And by the time I found out, it was 800, my blood sugar.
Wow.
So it was nuts. But I went to the doctor, and he told me, you're going to have to take insulin. And I hyperventilated my first injection. I said, no, I'll just go home. I'll eat lettuce all weekend, which is what I did. And came back on Monday, tried again to inject, and I kind of flipped out. I just really couldn't handle it. And then I told him, is there any other way? I was at 26. My parents weren't around. My boyfriend and I were, we're still married 40-some years later. But
congratulations.
But it was, he's a scientist. So he got out the books and read all about it. This is what you need to do. Back then it was probably quite a bit. Not a lot different, but avoiding carbs. Because at that point, I didn't really have any other options other than to take insulin. So I started on pills that were type 2 pills, and I lasted for a few months till I was taking max doses. I was just very, very stubborn.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go on insulin. He never hospitalized me or anything, but he knew I was type 1. But back then in 82, when you're 26, everybody's like, you can't be type 1, It's just, nobody knew about, there wasn't even a term LADA. And so I ended up going to UCSF to do a research study, and they did up all kinds of tests on me, C-peptide and all this stuff. And sure enough, my doctor knew too, though, that I was type 1. So, but basically just a lot of finger sticks. Started with 2 injections a day, and by the time before I switched over to a pump, I was doing 8 to 10 injections a day.
Wow. Yeah.
And it didn't mean that anything was getting worse. It was the fact that I was mismanaging my diabetes. I was stacking insulin and everything else, and I was a mess.
Yeah.
So
you
switched over.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2000, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
2001, I switched over to a pump.
Okay. So were you trying to still do the bodybuilding throughout the whole time when you got first diagnosed, or you just took a break?
I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped. I tried to get better, and then I've always been really active. I'm a tomboy. Always have been. Always will be. And after the bodybuilding thing, I stopped, but I did have a love for lifting weights. It introduced me to that, and it made me realize that was something I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so I went to just basically cycling, running, and then once I got a handle on things, we did a lot of hiking, went to gyms, and just did the bro thing, and probably none of it was right, but I still stayed in fairly decent shape.
Yeah.
But with a lot of ups and downs. Nothing, it wasn't like hills and valleys, it was more like mountain ranges and gutters.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Like when I first got diagnosed, I literally did my first injection because, well, I've been in the medical field for like 12, 13 years. So it's all been emergency room based. And so like I've seen the nastiest of nasty stuff, and like I just got used to it. And I was like, and I was a medic in the Air Force too, so I pretty much would do IVs all the time. So I was like, whatever, I'm used to it, so I'll just do it myself. And so, it's pretty, like, I feel bad for the people that like struggle actually, that they don't want to use a needle and inject themselves. Because I've heard stories of people like a girl, she passed away because she was deathly afraid of needles and she wouldn't take her insulin. So she would try to make diet, and she just went into a coma and pretty much died just because she couldn't use the needles, which is like super sad. But I mean,
yeah, I think at that point it's more than the needle. There was something that was going at her. I can't imagine not doing something to save your life. So, but it is, I mean, it can be pretty devastating at times.
Yeah.
You have the ups and downs, not just, I mean, mentally, on top of everything else. But yeah, so I stayed with, basic working out, and then my brother was really big into CrossFit, and during this time I started playing soccer when I was 45, because when I was growing up, women didn't play sports. They did, a few did, and, you know, but it just wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed being active, but I started playing soccer at 45 and was really heavily into soccer at that point in time, and it did till, you know, I started CrossFit, which I transitioned out of soccer to CrossFit, and that was pretty awesome until it, you know, wrecked my hands. And I mean, it's long-term diabetes problems too, but my hands just couldn't take it anymore. So it got me into a spot that I had to actually stop. I couldn't do it anymore, but I loved it.
Yeah. So would you wear gloves throughout the whole thing, or just grips,
No.
or no?
No, I did it for 2 years. I did really well at it. The 2014 CrossFit Open, I placed 40th worldwide.
Dang.
In my age group.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, you know, I did better in, what's interesting is I did better in the WODs that had deadlifts, box jumps, things that were more my cup of tea, wall balls, that kind of thing. But when it came to snatches and, you know, cleans and all that other stuff, I'm not, well, I started at 56. So, you know, little stiff around the edges, and it just didn't, you know, there were some things that I really struggled at, no matter how hard I tried. But when I pick up a sport or anything, I'm super competitive. So I just take it to the max. My brother's been to the CrossFit Games 4 times.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So he got me into it, and, you know, I loved it, but my fingers started catching when I was a lot of pull-ups, you know, over and over and over again, excessive gripping. And I noticed all of a sudden my fingers started triggering, and a few of them. And by the time I couldn't even do it anymore. I had to stop, and I went to see a hand doctor down at UCLA, and he said, well, how many fingers do you think you have that are trigger fingers? And I said, well, maybe 3 or 4. And he goes, no, they all are. So, and this is, he goes, I can tell by looking at your hands, you have had diabetes a long time, which I thought was interesting. I'd never heard of that before, but it does, you know, over time thicken your tendons. So with that and the activity that I was doing, it was just a bad mix. Yeah. So had lots of surgeries, and I tore my bicep tendon, had that fixed all within a few months. And that was a long ago injury that kind of reared its ugly head with CrossFit too. Yeah. So got that all fixed up, and I ended up being kind of out of it for a little. It took me a little bit to come back, but I was determined to, you know, it was a rough year. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. And then when I finally healed up and came back, I realized that, you know, I can't do excessive gripping, but I still want to lift weights. And I thought, you know, I talked to my brother for a while about it. I said, what can I do to lift weights, you know, just so that I don't aggravate my hands? And because I could squat and I won't be excessive gripping. I can deadlift. That's going to take a little work. Yep. And then bench press, you know, we talked about that. That was another thing that I've never actually done bench press until recently before. So it was just a matter of talking to him and then starting on my own to try to figure it out, but to gain strength back in my hands, because I almost lost the use of my left hand throughout this because I had so much inflammation from all the surgeries that I couldn't close my hand, and I was a mess. But, you know, here I am. Yeah. So you got into powerlifting, which is like super cool. And when did you start getting into powerlifting? What was your age when you got in? I was 60.
Okay. And then, so what are your numbers right now? Like, what are your totals for like all 3 lifts?
Okay, so my totals. Good question. I'm not really good with the numbers, but so I've got my total deadlift is a 336, bench is 150, and squat is 270. Wow. So I'm around 730, 750, somewhere in that range. I don't know, but right now this is me. I'm competitive, and I'm looking at openpowerlifting.com, seeing where my standings are. and also on USPA, because I try to do drug-tested meets, but I've done a couple of non-tested meets. And open powerlifting, though, for all-time squat, I'm 4th in the world, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully if there's another meet coming soon down the road or even next year, I can probably bump myself up a little closer to the top.
Very cool, very cool. So
yeah.
So what's the what are the different areas? Because I know there's like a raw group of powerlifters, and what are the other ones? The ones that have like the lifting suits, or is that like the upper echelon?
Yeah, it starts with raw, which you can wear knee sleeves and wrist straps and a belt. Then there's classic raw, where you can wrap your knees, and that's it, you know. And then the rest, it's all single ply, multi-ply, which I have no interest in. To me, at my age, just to do raw powerlifting is pretty awesome. And it's nice to have a belt and knee sleeves and wrist straps for, just for in general. But I'm sticking with raw.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, those suits must be super expensive just for all those guys, what those guys use, which is like insane.
Well, not just that, but I have to eliminate every bit of pulling the shirts on and doing things and gripping. For me to try to do that with my hands it's not the easiest thing. I still do struggle at times. I have to do ice baths and things like that with my hands when they get inflamed, but it's more my fingers and not the palms of my hand, which is nice because I can, my palms are really strong now.
Yeah.
But to pick a plate off the ground, like picking up a quarter off the ground,
mm-hmm.
if you can envision the similarities, is much harder for me with my fingertips in it. So I have to get it over to an edge to pull it up.
Yeah.
So I've just had to adapt, which has been fine.
I mean, you're killing it. You're killing it. So I mean, you're doing pretty good.
I'll find a way.
Yeah.
When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. Like, I'm super competitive. Like, I'm back when like the CrossFit gyms were open, I would go to this class on Saturday, and there was like this 18-year-old kid that was like half my size, and I'm like, I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna beat him. But like when it came to like running or pull-ups, like he's half my size, so like he's a cross country. He was a cross country guy, and then like his pull-ups, like I videotaped it. I'm like, how is this kid beating me? There's no way. And so then I look at it. Every two of his is one of my pull-ups, and I'm like, this is all right. I can't win on that. But like, I killed him on the heavier weights, so I was happy with that.
I know where your head's at, though.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah.
I do, because when I did CrossFit, a lot of the times in the box, it was just, I was the oldest, I was the only older person there. The only one. And this is the same way at powerlifting meets, too. I've only done one meet. Actually, I've done 2 or 3 that have had women that were in my age category, 2. And the rest of them, I've been by myself.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot less fish in the pond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like, and even in the Air Force, my main goal was to like run circle. I was in my I think it was 27 when I first got into the Air Force, and my main goal was just to run circles with like during the PT test run circles around the 18-year-old kids that are just coming in, and like just absolutely embarrass them, because that was just the way I was. So. But,
I understand.
Yeah. So, how are your sugars while you train? Do they pretty much stay stable a lot, or?
At first, I struggled because, my coach was testing, to see what my maxes were and stuff, and every time I push myself really hard, I do have spikes, and they're not drastic spikes. They're more of just a gradual rise, but they don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep going. So in the very beginning, the first year, I really struggled with highs during training, and I've never really typically bottomed out after working out. More, I would stay high.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to learn how to adjust. So before I would finish my training, I would take more insulin so that I would level off. and then have to watch myself through the night to make sure that I don't bottom out. But after time, I've been powerlifting for almost 3 years now, and I would say into the second year with routine and doing the same thing every day, not every day, but same training schedule every week, and keeping a somewhat same pattern every week, I could see the difference start to happen.
Yeah.
I was becoming a lot more stable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with this until I can't do it anymore, only because I feel so much better than I did in CrossFit. I'm not sore at night like I used to be. I can sleep. I mean, actually, CrossFit used to wake me up in the middle of the night. I was aching and sore because I just balls out, go for it all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't do that with powerlifting, and I do a lot more mobility work than I even did with CrossFit. Is great, but I just noticed a big difference in my blood sugar because I think my body's just it's homeostasis. It's used to it now.
Yeah. So
this last week it's been really crummy, and I can't even explain why.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I've had a lot of highs this last week. I've changed everything out, whatever. There's just sometimes there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Just blame COVID for it. So.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. I'm sitting on my butt a lot.
Yeah, it's like 2020. It's 2020. That's what it is.
Yeah. There you go.
So when you're maintaining, like when your blood sugar is like kind of maintained, do you kind of like typically eat the same foods, or like what's your diet typically like while you're training?
Well, it's pretty much the same all the time. I base my carbs around my workouts. So I'll have, and when I have carbs, other than when I'm working out, obviously I'm taking more insulin.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm like on a training day, I will do like a light protein carb before I go work out, and then when I'm done, I'll finish with a good carb protein meal.
Okay.
And lots of veggies. I do a lot of veggies, but mostly I try to keep the carbs fairly low other times when I'm not training.
Mm-hmm.
And just try to cycle those right around my workouts, or I go to the park with my dog quite a bit and run around with her. So there's just all these little off things that I do too. But mainly, I don't avoid carbs. I'm not on a low carb diet. I've tried every diet known to man. Since the beginning of time, 1982. And the thing that works for me best, and I hate the word paleo, but I kind of stick to that to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But it works best for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like there's some diets that are good for some people, and they're really bad for other people. It's kind of like you just have to kind of test yourself out to see what's good for you. So.
Well, and also the sport that you do too.
Yeah.
Honestly, it makes a big difference. It just does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Because when I was a personal trainer, I used to get asked like all the time, like, what do you think about this diet? What do you think about that diet? And I always tell them like, you got to test it out for yourself. It's because it's your body. I could say, hey, this works for me, but won't even do anything for you. So it's like just.
Yeah.
I always tell them just eat on the outside of the supermarket. And that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Those middle aisles will kill you.
Yeah. But then like I have clients that say, well, what about the ice cream aisle? And they're like,
yes.
Yeah. I literally just had ice cream before I got on this podcast too. So
I'm jealous.
I'm addicted to ice cream. It's so bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah.
I mean that is probably my biggest downfall. I can sit down and probably eat more ice cream than anybody in a single sitting.
Yeah. I got my dad used to do that too, so I get it. I know I get it from my dad.
Yeah.
And
that's the big thing in our family too.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like, there's a place called Culver's, and they make this thing called a concrete mixer, and you can put like whatever you want in it, and it's really it's almost like the Dairy Queen like Blizzard, whatever it is, and like it's pretty much like every second day my wife's like, you want to get ice cream? And of course I'm not gonna say no. So, and then like I try to say no today, but it just didn't happen. But whatever.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I think restricting too much can actually lead to situations.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, it's just not good. I mean, I never deny myself something unless, I'm really feeling crummy, then I don't. But, we've got insulin to cover it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. I just love the people that say, oh, are you allowed to eat that? Of course I am.
Oh
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
I can't imagine the stuff that people tell you, so.
Oh, well, yesterday I just had a conversation with, we were building a house, and one of our subs was standing there, and he was asking me about my Dexcom, and he started asking me all these really intense questions. He goes, oh, you got it bad. I'm like, yeah, I got it bad. Whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I just love the people that say like, oh, how are you a diabetic? You're like so fit. I don't get it. And it's like it's
I've heard that.
yeah, it's like it's not that, but I mean, all the diabetics that listen to this like completely know what we're talking about. So, and it's
absolutely
it's annoying, but so were you training at a gym before like all this COVID-19 stuff happened?
Yep, I sure was, and I live in a really small town in Northern California, and it's a really old school powerlifting gym.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dumbbells are from a local prison here.
Nice.
A few of them are like, who lifts those?
Yeah.
They're ridiculous. But but they had to close. This is their second time closing. And what happened was a couple friends of mine that they were actually going to start their own gym. So they had a bunch of stuff in storage, and they couldn't do anything with it. And I said, hey, can I borrow it? And they let me borrow. That's the rack I have in my garage is a borrowed rack. I have one on order. But so during this whole time, they let me borrow it. The gym's opened back up, and they realized they couldn't open up the gym, so they wanted to sell it. And I, raising my hand, hey, talk to me, So I actually just last month purchased all their equipment from my garage.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Which I'm really happy with. I loved working out at the gym, and I noticed I'm a little more disciplined, obviously, at the gym. I'm there for a reason, and I can't go in and out of the house for any other, for stupid stuff. And I noticed that I'm not doing as much as I was with my core and all this other stuff. But I typically train alone. I've always trained alone. I've never really trained with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll sometimes need a spotter or something, but very rarely. And I loved meeting and talking to people. I always stayed down there longer, just chit-chatting with people. But working out at home for me is no big deal because I've pretty much always trained alone. It's more like, hey, how you doing at the gym?
Yeah. And
talking a little bit, and then I get back on my thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's really nobody there that follows my program, and I'm super disciplined with rest times and all that stuff. And my husband and I used to work out together, and he'd sit there and, start reading in between sets, and I'm like, this isn't working. You're just, this is a wash. All your gains are a wash now. You can't work like this. So I basically went out on my own and have been ever since.
Yeah, I hear you. So when do you typically train in your garage?
Mid-morning, depending on our work, because we build houses, so it just depends on the day and the physical activity I have with that too, because we're pretty physical on the job. But lately it's been really slow, so typically mid-morning or later afternoon. I don't late in the evening or evenings. I can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I don't sleep well if I train late.
Mm-hmm.
And early morning, I'm old. It takes me a while to warm up.
Yeah.
No, really, seriously, honestly, it takes me longer to warm up, which is fine. It forces me to do more mobility work, which I really need, and I think it's helped me with all my lifts. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Yeah, because when with this whole COVID stuff happened and they closed all the gyms, I was training in my basement because I have like a whole set. If you probably saw my Instagram, but I have like a whole set. But I would train from like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it was like, and I'd finish eating at 7 and wait an hour and then start working out. And then there would like be days, there'd be times where I take a little bit too much insulin and I like bottom out and like I can't work out during the day. So now I don't eat till 7 and I wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I work out from like like 6 to 7:30, and I feel like it's a lot better for me because I can't work out at night because it's just miserable, and it's in the basement. It's in the middle of Georgia, like it's stupid hot. Yeah.
So now you're MDI, right? Multiple daily injections.
Yeah. I take a pen. Yeah, I use a pen. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's why I went off the pen, or off of, when pens came out, which was really funny. I was selling real estate, and they actually had a clip, and it was like a pen you wear in your pocket.
Yeah, they still have it.
Oh my God! Well, I don't want to know about it because I'm never going back on. But I decided, I actually, before I started playing soccer, I thought, I can't just go and do a pickup game anytime I want if I'm injecting. It's not. You have to be a lot more regimented with your schedule, and I'm not that way. I'm more like, hey, let's just go do this. And I realized that the pump was the way for me to go. So that gives me a lot more flexibility with my schedule too, because I can ramp back the insulin or ramp it up, whatever I need to do, or take off my pump, but I don't have that, that insulin circulating in my system, which is, unless I bolus, but I know if I'm going to be working out, I don't do that, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot more freedom with my schedule.
Yeah, usually when I wake up, my numbers are pretty good, except for if some outlier happens that, it goes up, and I'll just take a little bit of insulin and then just work out and it'll be perfectly fine. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm working on getting a pump because I don't have a pump or a Dexcom or anything like that. So it's,
oh gosh.
Yeah, it's funny to talk about Dexcom. So I've been trying to get on Dexcom, and this guy from California has been calling me at 9:00 at night, trying to and I'm like, who is this? I'm and he's like, oh, it's from Dexcom. We're trying to get you ready to go and stuff. Can you call me a little bit earlier, or because it's I understand it's California time, but still you got to figure out I have a Massachusetts number, so it's you may want to call me a little bit earlier.
Yeah, they're 24/7 now. They never used to be, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even remember how I even got along without one. I don't know. I'm so dependent on it now. It's almost once I have to change it out, that 2 hours, that 2-hour window waiting for it to warm up I'm checking myself all the time. And, I used to be pretty neurotic when I was first diagnosed. I had graphs, and I had an 8.5 by 11 sheet every day. I'd make graphs. It was dot to dot, and I'd do that every day, take it into my doctor. But I had to, because we had kids, and I, had to go through 2 pregnancies, being diabetic and stuff. So it was, I had to do a lot more homework.
Yeah.
Now you just look at your, we didn't even have cell phones then.
Yeah.
So now I can just, they just download everything. It's woo.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
I love technology.
Yeah, I was on the Libre for a month because my neighbor, he was a diabetic. He gave it to me for free, and I would put it on. I'd scan it I'd probably scan it 15 times a day, and then when I put the new sensor on, you have to wait 12 hours for it to go through, and I'm I'll be fine. I'll just put it on right before I go to bed, and I'll wake up and and then later on I'll just check my finger, prick my finger and check it, and then just scan it. But I don't know. I mean, I've had some huge number differences from pricking my finger to the Libre, at least 120 points. So
I've heard that.
Yeah. And so I'm you guys got to make this better or something. So, but
it can happen with Dexcom, but it's not very common at all.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But so who actually? So how do you still have the motor? We're talking about the garage workout. So how do you feel? How do you still get motivated while in your garage, and compared to being in the gym? Because that's another issue that I've had downstairs too.
Right. Well, for me, I always set my sights on. I have a major goal. Always. When I started playing soccer, I wanted to be on the A team, and it didn't take me too long because I worked really hard at it. I got there fairly quickly, but I always set my sights on something. For instance, I am signed up for a meet in November, which I kind of doubt that's going to happen because it's going to be in the LA area of California, and I really don't think it's going to happen. It's a drug tested meet, but it's where there's world judges, and I want to go break my world records that I already have. And I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity for me to do it, but at the same time, it may not happen. So I'm training for that. I always like to set goals, and then I break it down small and keep my eye on the prize in the back of my mind. But I know when I go out there that's lurking in the back. But if it doesn't happen, I'm just going to have like a mock meet at home or whatever and do my thing and just see if I can beat my former numbers, which I'm pretty sure I can.
Awesome.
But yeah, I just, I don't know what it is. My whole family's competitive. We always are, like, I'll get on, I'm looking at who's got what records and what can I do to get past that. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's not, it hasn't been to my detriment yet. My coach has to reel me in every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Just, hey, he's really good with keeping me in check. Like, this is it's not a race like a sprint.
Yeah.
So that's how he's trying to feed that into my brain all the time. I'm trying to remember it. So
very cool. Yeah. So who's your coach?
My coach is Rodney Miller, who is type 1. He's been type 1 since he was 4.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's amazing. He's does strongman, powerlifting. He's been my coach from the beginning. We talked. He saw me. I posted a squat video in a group that I admin. It's type 1 diabetic athletes group. And I'm like, hey, I'm flailing. I don't know where to go from here. I already hit my max squat that I hit the year before after all the surgeries. I finally got back to it, and I don't know where to go from here. And he messaged me, and he said, let's talk, So we had a meeting like we're having now, and we talked, and I'm like, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I think I can do it. He knew what I was dealing with my hands, and then my bicep being reattached and stuff, and I had another injury with my bicep. Actually, it wasn't an injury. I had melanoma on my bicep that I had to have part of my muscle cut out, which actually caused quite a bit of an issue doing push-ups and stuff.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
because my nerves were having to reattach and part of my muscle was gone. So I'm like, oh, this is freaking great. What next? But I got past that, and I still, it looks a little funky like Popeye muscle now, but whatever, it works, and they got all the melanoma, so that's good. But so he got me through all these things. I have knee soccer problem with my knee, and he's worked me through that, and I've never felt better. He just tells me what to do when I'm having little issues here and there, and he's been great. Yeah, so I train 4 days a week. We kind of set that up. That's a good schedule for me, and he takes into account my age.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 64 on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations. Awesome. Well, yeah.
but I'll be in a whole new category by the time things open up with COVID. I think I'll be in the 65 to 69 group.
Yeah.
Because that'll be next July.
Yeah.
And, I'm just thinking, okay, well, what are the records there now?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. Like, you could probably knock out the world records in that age group.
I've already looked.
Nice. So how does your coach actually train, like, schedule your programming for 4 days a week? Like, what does he typically do? Does he do like a certain lift like one day, or he does like all 3 every 4 days?
Right. So he lives in Texas. I live in California, and it's all online. We do a lot of videos and we chat. Typically don't call each other unless we really have to. It's mostly just chatting on Messenger and sending videos every week. But I have a squat day on Monday. I train 4 days a week, so it's either Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday is typically what I like to do. And Monday I have a squat day, a bench day, and a deadlift day. And then the 4th day is called cleanup, which is a lot of accessories. It's just all the things I missed during the week that I need to work on, like push presses and max pull-ups and push-ups and oh god.
Yeah, like banded marches too, or does he have you do that at all? Yeah,
just a lot of stuff that's you don't want to focus on like squat day, I focus on doing like Bulgarian split squats
Yep.
and pause squats and all these other things. And if I did much more than, so many different exercises for squat, I would be taxed.
Yeah.
So he just piles it all onto the last day.
Okay.
Which has worked out really well, and I video specific lifts when he pushes up the weight or whatever, and at the end of the week I send him videos of everything, and then it's all RPE based, and then he just adjusts from there.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So obviously you were planning on the competition in November. Was there anything like next year that you had any plans for any competitions at all, or?
Well, not specifically, no. But if this blows up in November, nothing happens, I have to try to pace myself a little more carefully, because if they do postpone it, I don't foresee it happening early next winter, at the beginning of 2021 even, just with everything going on. But if I max out in November, I need recovery time.
Yeah.
I've done 6 meets in less than 3 years, and I really shouldn't be doing more than 2 meets a year. So I'm trying to focus on meets that have world judges that are drug tested.
Yeah.
Only because I know that, I've got those records, and I try to beat my own records. And if, like what happened last year was, in June, someone broke all my records at, I don't know, it was Vegas. It was the big USPA thing, and they broke all my records, and I'm like, oh, that was a good kick in the butt.
Yeah.
So in July, I had my meet, and I knew there were world judges there, so I thought, I got 1 month. I'm gonna go take them back.
Yeah.
I did. And
Nice.
I even broke a couple ribs in the meantime while I was training for meet prep.
Oh,
but I
jeez.
still took my records back.
Nice. So in November, if it doesn't go through, do you think you're gonna take like a month off, or like take an excessive like break, or like what's the game plan?
I probably will take at the very least 4 months.
Okay.
At the very, very least. I probably wouldn't even compete again until early summer or late spring at the very earliest.
Okay.
Because, I could do a lot of hypertrophy.
Yeah.
And just try to, stick with what he's got me doing. It's I'm in this for the long haul, and I don't want to get injured. And so far, I'm sleeping good at night. I feel really good. It's working really well, and I'm happy. I mean, this last meet I did, it was a non-drug tested meet. I just did it for the fun because it was close to home.
Yeah.
And I went and I broke my state records and stuff, but it was a blast,
Yeah.
And that was the second meet I went to without a handler. And when you're diabetic at a meet and you're giving your attempts and trying to warm up by yourself and all this other stuff and check your blood sugar, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could do it, but I feel pretty confident I can now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the Dexicom and everything. All you need to do is just look at your phone, and there you go. So.
Yeah, I think my panic was getting low
Yeah.
before an attempt. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's nobody here. What am I going to do? Or, I don't know, but I have survived.
Yes, you have. So, I noticed you actually have a YouTube channel too as well. So how did that all come about?
Well, okay, so a year ago I did the San Jose Fit Expo, and it's really bizarre, but when I broke my ribs, I was moving trusses at our job site, and I tripped over a big mound of dirt, and I fell on the trusses, and I broke a couple ribs. I didn't know it. I knew at the time I did something that wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I went for an x-ray several days later. They didn't even tell me I broke my ribs, but I ended up at the doctor's office, and he said, you have a nodule in your lung. So I thought I had lung cancer and I was going to die. And I didn't know till after the meet that it was actually a lesion from valley fever. But at the time I was like, okay, this is probably going to be like my last meet. I had a really rough time last summer. I had 2 months of where I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I kept to myself, and this young videographer at the gym offered to do a video. He goes, no, I'd love to video your meet, and he set up my whole YouTube and everything for me.
Cool.
Because he's a young videographer. You know how they are.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Let's do some content. Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay. You're gonna have to help me with this because
yeah.
grandson.
That's with me and my wife. Like she has like 42,000 followers on Instagram, and like because she's a fashion. Yeah, it's insane. Like she's like a fashion. Lifestyle blogger, and so like I'm like there's some captions I look at it and I'm like I don't even know what to write. Like just what do you think?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, yeah. So the YouTube, he just put the video that he did on YouTube. He linked it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So he actually changed my whole Instagram profile and everything. I'm like, just do this for me because I'm old.
Yeah.
And so he did, and he fixed up my YouTube, which was really super nice. And he's actually the one I bought the equipment from too.
Oh, cool.
Very good friend of mine. Great kid. Anyway, that was really sweet. And I hardly have any followers or anything, but it is what it is.
Well, I mean, hopefully
it's a great video that he did.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you'll get some followers from this podcast. So.
Well, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So you have like I think I was looking at it. I didn't get a chance to see like most of the videos. I think you have like 6 or 4 to 6 or something like that on there, I believe.
I honestly don't even know. I have a lot of them that are unlisted because they're all for my coach.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I did have to create one for that, but I probably have, maybe 6 or 7 or something. There's a group called Old Ladies Lift. There's a huge uprising in older women lifting weights, powerlifting and stuff, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And I think she actually put my picture on her website, but she's posted all my videos on their YouTube link also. So that's kind of how it all got linked up.
Okay, cool. Are you looking to do like more videos at all, or kind of like a vlogging style, or whatever you and your videographers figured out?
I haven't seen him lately, and I'm kind of I don't know where to begin. I'm not very techie. And
yeah.
My kids aren't around to show me, so we're being isolated, not being techie really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you could just use your phone and start videotaping those and just being like, hey, this is my typical training cycle, and then like do lifts, and then like send all the videos to the videographer kid and be like, here, you need to edit this, and then you can
that's true.
And then you can post it, and then he could put his information like in the detail list, and there you go. I mean, get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't pushed that hard with it yet.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, you already have like a couple world records and everything like that, and you're an absolute savage. So, I mean, I think it'd be perfect. So.
Well, you might be the push I needed. I don't know.
So we're almost getting close to the end. So, and I forgot to ask in the beginning. What, if you don't mind me asking, like what medications do you take for your insulin, like the long-lasting and short-acting?
Oh, I only use Humalog.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm on a pump.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I used to do NPH and regular and mix clear before cloudy and all that other good stuff. But when you go on a pump, you only need one insulin, and that's short-acting.
Yeah.
And there are people that add like Fiasp and this really fast, super fast acting in there and stuff. But I don't like to play around too much because I just don't. I'm not that adventurous as far as that kind of stuff goes.
Yeah, you're kind of like a creature of habit, like me. Just like you like the same thing.
I've had a couple really bad incidents. I've almost died a couple times from lows and stuff. So I don't like to. I just can't do it.
Yeah. So what's the lowest low you've ever had?
Get ready for this. 12.
Oh, I had 18 one time at last Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So I actually rolled over onto my husband in the middle of the night, and I started having really bad seizures. And obviously, everybody was around me at that. The ambulances and everything came, and they took me to the hospital. They couldn't get a body temp. They had to wrap me in stuff to get my body temperature up. I thought I was having a stroke, but I was having massive seizures.
Yeah.
And and I didn't have a Dexcom, and ever since then, it's like I'm not going to be without one.
Yeah.
I was really exhausted. I was up and down all day long. I was changing from Thanksgiving to Christmas decorations, and I was a wreck that day with my blood sugars, and I was just conked out at night and didn't wake up.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because like usually if I get low when in the middle of the night, I'll wake up for some reason. Then I'm like, okay, either I have to go to the bathroom or I stand up and I'm like, okay, I need to eat something. So I'll just like go downstairs and eat something. Like I've never not waken up from a low. So I don't know why, but it's super interesting. Like even when I hit that 18 number during Christmas Eve, I was like wrapping up Christmas presents. I stood up and I almost like keeled over from like just being completely out of it. And I like literally beelined it, checked my sugar, literally beelined it to the Santa's cookies and just like started going to town on those things. And it was super weird. Like the other time I was 24 when I was working in the hospital emergency department, and I was just walking around and like I used to work at a children's hospital, so I used to hold kids down when they had to get an IV, and so
great.
Yeah. So I mean, in a good way. It's not like wrestling moves or anything like that. So, but I was ready to do it, and then the charge nurse looks at me. She's like, "Are you okay? Like, you look a little off." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. What do you mean?" And then I can check my blood sugar. It's like 24, and she's like, "Sit your ass down. There's apple juice right behind you and graham crackers. Eat those and just go to town." And I'm like, "Okay," but you know.
When it happens, that's why I never go anywhere without any type of fast acting glucose.
Yeah.
Never ever. And the one thing I did learn from that one incident, though, my daughter's boyfriend at the time was a firefighter, and he said, "I want you to get a plastic box, put your glucagon in there, put juice, put Skittles, put a menagerie of low blood sugar items in there, and write on the box, low blood sugar kit, and anywhere you sleep, you have that next to you."
Smart,
and I've done it ever since then, and I feel pretty good now. Although that night I didn't wake up, but
yeah.
wouldn't help then. But still, that was a highly unusual thing.
Yeah.
But it's important to keep things close.
I actually that's a smart idea with that box, because I need to do that, because I usually when I hit lows I'll eat like a peanut butter sandwich and that's it. And so I mean
so I have a tube of frosting, a box of juice, glucagon, raisins, really fast acting sugars.
Yeah.
Those first, and then you can go to the fridge for your sandwich or whatever. But get that juice down or something that's fast. So that's what I do.
Okay, very cool. So we're getting close to the end. So I got like 4 more questions for you. So, you talked about in November you wanted to do another meet and break your records. But do you have, other than that, do you have anything else that you want to accomplish within like the end of the year at all?
As far as powerlifting or just anything in general?
Anything.
Okay, what I want to do is start an Etsy store, because I do a lot of crocheting.
Okay.
And my room is starting to fill up with projects here, and it's like, this is getting serious.
Yeah.
So, I want to start an Etsy store. That's my goal. I need to do that by fall.
Yeah, okay.
That is a major goal of mine.
Yeah,
I have a lot of people tell me, you really need to do this, and I'm just, here comes the tech part of me, it freezes me up. I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
YouTube. So my wife had an Etsy store too. She used to make custom made like fabric handbags, which were like, which pretty much I had to help her out too. But yeah, it went really well. It got to the point where like it was just taking way too much time for her, and it was just, so she just shut it down. But she did really good with it. But it's you could make a killing on Etsy if you're really good at it.
Yeah, that's my goal. Something way off, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do it. You should do it. That and YouTube. So.
Yeah. Okay. I'll remember those.
Yeah. So another question is, do you have like a favorite book, like a self-help, like fictional or like biography, or like a fitness book that you like to read, or you always like recommend to other people?
Yes, I have one. This is a really good one, and I know I've met Gary Shiner. I don't know if you know the book, but it's Think Like a Pancreas. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
So I just got his new book. It's a new edition, but I love it. He's also type 1, has been for 30 some odd years. And what I like about it is you can refer to it anytime, no matter how long you've been diabetic, newly diagnosed, 38 years like me, doesn't matter. It's the nuts and bolts of how to test your basal rates. What to do when you're active with your basal and your bolusing and all this stuff. It's just, you can just go back and refer to certain chapters just for the items that you're struggling with at that point in time. I love that book. It's really the best one, I think, for any diabetic.
Okay, very cool. So what would you tell a new person that's getting into powerlifting what to expect while training and doing a competition?
For type 1.
Or type 1 or anybody, pretty much. You can do, let's do type 1. That's fine, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't sure. But I think I would tell them to, for their first meet, is to go in and don't be confident of your lifts. Go in and make sure that you hit every first lift on the platform of the squat, bench, and deadlift with confidence, that you know you can hit that 3 times with ease. Because after that, it's all gravy, But if you bomb out on one lift, you're done for the whole meet. So you just want to get a total and build on that. And that first lift is the scariest of them all. It's all the anxiety building up to the meet, putting in your attempts and stuff. But once you get that first squat out of the way, it's, there's still adrenaline flowing, but it's just so much fun. It is so much fun. And honestly, no matter what you do out there, everybody cheers you on. Even when you fail. I mean, that's how great the community is. I just love it because great, you set a record or whatever, but I've seen older women out there deadlift 150 pounds and the crowd is cheering. They're all out there for each other. It's a pretty welcoming, uplifting community.
Yeah, I've seen.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, I've seen videos of people like cheering and like even like Olympic weightlifting competitions. Everyone's like super happy for like everybody and like just cheer them on, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so,
it's just you want to be your best.
Yeah. So last question. So where can everybody reach out to you if they have a question for you?
I would say DMing me on Instagram is the best at 56Frankie, Franki.
Okay, so where did the 56 come from?
That's the year I was born.
Okay.
and then that was back in the 1900s.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really do appreciate everything that, reaching back out to me on the DMs and then like doing this and scheduling it, because I really wanted to hear your story. And I think, there's a lot of people, maybe hearing your story will, push themselves to actually do something else, especially with like, your age and like, saying like, age is not a handicap, and, and I think that people can still do amazing things even if they're diabetic or even like older down, like, down the road, with age.
I think it's a bonus.
Yeah.
I look at it as a bonus.
Yeah. I mean,
my doctor told me 38 years ago I wasn't going to be here right now, so I'm going for it.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of the day, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Alrighty.
All right.
Bye-bye.